Somatic tracking is a rewiring technique that is changing lives for people who have chronic pain. When I was 24, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is a condition that's characterized by widespread pain and fatigue. Even though I knew there was no cure for fibromyalgia, I found a way to turn off my chronic pain and every other symptom that I had. On my YouTube channel, I go through every single thing that I did step by step, and I explain to you in detail how to do what I did to get better. Now in this video, I'm going to focus more on somatic tracking. So we'll look at what somatic tracking is and how you can do it to kind of reduce your chronic pain and turn off your symptoms permanently. So what is somatic tracking? Somatic tracking is a rewiring technique that's targeting your brain instead of your body. Now, in cases of chronic pain that are unexplained by the doctors, such as that in fibromyalgia, there's actually nothing wrong with the body. What's happening is that there are kind of pain pathways that are incorrectly firing the wrong signals, and in turn, the wrong signals are being misinterpreted as well. Now, in the case of fibromyalgia, your nervous system is kind of what we call in an overactive state. It's dysregulated and it's dysfunctioning. And what somatic tracking aims to do is to change your relationship with the pain. What you're trying to do is create new neural networks. So instead of kind of reusing the pain pathways that shouldn't be used in the first place, what you're now doing is changing the pathways that you're using in your brain, so the circuits in your brain, and over time creating a habit so that when kind of you receive signals from the environment, your brain, instead of thinking, danger, I don't know what to do, I'm going to create pain in order to keep you safe, what it's then going to do is going to toggle to the new neural network and pathway, and is going to start using that one instead. So that will become more automated, and that pathway is the pathway that will not be firing the wrong signals, such as pain, fatigue, nausea, dizziness. Now, we know that this is possible because of a concept called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the idea that the brain can change and adapt over time. So you can actually rewire and reprogram the structure of your brain. And actually, they've now shown that you can actually see fibromyalgia and people with chronic pain using an fMRI scan. And they've found that once those people have recovered and healed, their brain now changes and functions differently. So when they get an fMRI scan again, those structures show up to be completely different. So you can now tell between someone who has fibromyalgia and someone who has healed from fibromyalgia, because the structure of your brain will now be completely different. There is someone called Alan Gordon, and it is him that I got the idea from. He wrote a book called The Way Out. He himself had a ton of symptoms such as chronic pain that weren't explained, and he came up with this idea of using pain reprocessing therapy. And that lies in the fact that you use therapeutic techniques that target the brain instead of the body to make a full recovery. And one of his techniques that he recommends is somatic tracking, which is where I got the idea from. Okay, so when did I do somatic tracking? The important thing about somatic tracking is not how many times you do it, it's how many corrective experiences you have where your brain kind of strengthens the new neural pathway that you're trying to create, where signals turn off over time. Now, the way we do that is you have to approach and do somatic tracking when you feel empowered, when you're not in a state of fear and kind of obsessing and ruminating around your pain. So when your pain comes on and you go into this fear state and you're kind of dysregulated, you don't want to be doing somatic tracking then. You want to do it when you feel calm and when you know that what you're about to do is going to help you heal over time. So you kind of approach it with that kind of confident, calm manner. I do want to say at this point is that when you don't have a corrective experience, what you kind of are susceptible to is kind of reinforcing those old pathways that we're actually trying to get rid of. So when you spiral into fear, when you kind of give in to that danger state and kind of keep yourself in high alert, and when you force yourself to do somatic tracking, when you're not feeling confident and calm, you're actually reinforcing the old pathway. So just bear that in mind. Alright, so how do we actually do somatic tracking? I would close my eyes first, make sure you're in a very kind of quiet place where you won't be disturbed, and make sure you have a few minutes. It's not that you need a few minutes, so you can either do it for a few seconds or a few minutes. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you feel calm and you approach it from a grounded state. So take a few deep breaths to really get yourself grounded and ready to kind of go in on yourself to have a look at what's going on. I would then actually put my hand to my chest here and kind of reassure myself in that moment. I would remind myself, I am safe. I know that these sensations are safe and that I'm going to be okay. I do that because it helps keep me in that empowered state. I know how easy it is when you're in pain to kind of flick back into that state of fear, and that's not what we want to do in this moment, and that's not what you need right now. Your brain is feeling unsafe and it needs you to step in right now and to reassure it that everything is okay. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do is you want to get curious. The way we do that is we just have a look at what's going on in the body. So I would kind of focus and keep my attention on my breath. And then when there was a really loud sensation that was trying to get my attention, I would then let my mind go there. So, okay, so let's say my kind of neck is in pain. I would then let my mind drift to the pain sensation in my neck. And then at that point, I would lean in. When you lean in, get curious. Ask yourself, does it feel warm? Does it feel cold? Is it moving around? If it starts moving around, just watch it. Let it do its thing. You don't need to interfere. You're there just to watch the show. If it starts to get worse, that's fine. Ride out the wave. Again, you're not interfering, you're just there to see what it's doing. And then describe it. You're trying to keep your focus on what's going on in a very calm, curious manner. What is it doing? Does it feel like a massaging sensation? Does it feel like it's pulsating or throbbing? Does it feel like a tingling sensation? Does it feel like someone's pushing down on you? Describe it in as many adjectives as you possibly can. Now, what you're actually doing when you're asking yourself these questions and getting curious is you're actually in this moment rewiring your brain. Your brain is learning that actually you're not in danger, and the signals that it's receiving, it realizes that it's misinterpreting them, and what it's doing is it gets the chance to slow down and interpret those signals correctly. And you will find that your pain might turn off. You may find that your pain symptoms reduce, or in the case of me, you might find that your pain symptoms over a few weeks or a few months might completely disappear. And that's when you have completely and fully rewired your brain. So just keep breathing in, follow the sensations round, and if it intensifies, it is very likely to intensify. That's what happens with chronic pain, and that's when you know you're doing it correctly, actually, is when it starts to change in consistency. Breathe into it, let it do its thing, and remind yourself that you're safe. These sensations are safe and you're going to be okay. There is nothing wrong with your body, and this is just temporary. And then take a few more deep breaths and then come back to your breath. Breathe in, breathe out. If when you're doing that, and if you still feel empowered and another sensation in your body calls for your attention, then go there. Let your mind just drift back to the pain. Watch the pain, let it do its thing. And almost when you kind of almost get bored of watching the pain, you're just like, yeah, I don't care what it does. I'm not here to do anything or make it do anything. I'm just here to kind of see what's going on. When you've done with that, you can wrap up. So whether that's a few seconds, a few minutes, stay as long as you feel confident enough to. Then when you're ready, come back out, come back to your breath, take a few more deep breaths, reassure yourself, and then tell yourself that you've done it. You've collected a corrective experience and you have one coin in the bank, and over time you are going to start healing. So honestly, that is it. That is all you need to know to get started on your healing journey. That is kind of the basic concepts of what I used every day. I did somatic tracking just like that. Now, before you go, I want to actually talk to you about the biggest mistake that I made when I did somatic tracking, which actually caused me to have a setback. What you don't want to do is only do somatic tracking when you're trying to turn off your pain. So let's say your pain comes on, you're not feeling good, you're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this now. How long is this going to last? Oh, I know. I watched a video about somatic tracking and that's going to turn my pain off. And then you do somatic tracking, but your goal is to try and turn your pain signals off there and then. That is a mistake, because what you're actually doing is reinforcing those old pathways that we're actually trying to turn off. I know the end goal is to heal, but every time you do a session of somatic tracking, the goal of that session is not to turn off your pain. The goal of that session is to change the relationship you have with your pain, and in turn it will calm the pain pathways. And over time, again, those pathways will kind of fall apart and it'll start to turn its attention to the new pathways that we're trying to build. So bear that in mind. And the reason why that happens is because when you approach it with that kind of goal of I must turn my pain off in this session, you're coming from a place of frustration. Frustration, underneath that frustration is fear. Now, fear is what keeps you in that pain fear cycle. When your body knows that you're experiencing fear, it puts your brain in danger mode and alarm signals are going off in your body. And when that happens, it does what it's automatically wired up to do, which is use those old pain pathways. And that's not what we're trying to do. So remember, every time you start a session, you want to start with an empowered state of mind, and the goal is to change the relationship to your pain and just to watch your pain, nothing else. Thank you for listening. Remember to press like.